father, and he coached me, and I took the audition, came down to London, and they said no, thank you very much. So I tried again, and they said the same again. I tried another drama school, and they said, forget it. You know, if you've got a trade, stick to it. So I thought, well, that's what. And you believe them, you know, and so luckily this guy who ran the drama group said, we're going to have another go. Come on, don't. You know. So I did, and then I finally got in, and it's been great. You know, it's the idea that you can make a living out of the hobby never occurred to me at the time. But, thanks to the guy called Edward Taylor, by the way. Hoping to see it go by. I couldn't see it because of the trees and the rain, so I was pretending and this is a bit of a wet afternoon. And then I got a tap on the shoulder, and it was Mount Gates. And I'd never worked with him. I'd met him briefly before, just to say hello. And he said, I'm writing this thing for the 50th anniversary, and I'd like you to play the first Doctor. What do you think? And I said, yes, please. I had to think hard for like 1.5 seconds. And I didn't even bother to say, can I see a script or anything, which is the usual process. You'd like to know what you're getting into. And I just jumped at the chance, and he came through with a draft of it, and I thought, yeah, it's great. And then he said, ignore that, I'm writing another version. So he went through about 3 or 4 different drafts, but I was already there, you know, and I was sent lots of DVDs by the BBC of previous episodes, and I read a book by his granddaughter Jessica called Who's There? And it was a really insightful account of his early life and his career. And I thought, he's not a straightforward guy, he's very, very complicated, and he could be great fun, and he was a brilliant actor. I've seen all his films, really. I was a fan of his acting, not only in Doctor Who, which I do, I'm young enough to remember, but films like The Way Ahead, This Sporting Life, and I just, it was one of those great British character actors, but a very complicated man. And Mark wrote the script, warts and all, and didn't shy away from showing his side when he had his own personal demons. And his granddaughter wrote, as I said, this book. And of course, she was portrayed by an 8-year-old girl in the finished film. So she knew her subject and admired him, but wasn't afraid of writing an honest account of what he was like. Yeah. And that's what appealed to me. That's what made him human to me, and an interesting character to play. So that was just a great experience. And
it's because you weren't actually playing the Doctor, you were playing.
I was playing the actor who played the Doctor. Yeah.
When you get your teeth more into it and actually find his character within yourself.
Yes, and so it was different in the sense that I felt a responsibility not only to his memory and his great career, but mainly towards his family, because he still has grandchildren and other relatives, and I felt I had to get it right for them, whereas the Christmas special, I had to get that right for the fans, because if you've got to get it right, otherwise they know, the fans know more than me about Doctor Who. And so I felt that was where my responsibility lay, and of course not only that, I was actually playing the Doctor.
How was that transition? Because you are essentially playing 2 different characters between the two. How was the transition between that? Because you're portraying, in some of the scenes in Adventures in Space and Time, you are portraying the Doctor.
Yeah.
And then, but in Twice Upon a Time, you are the Doctor.
Yes.
So how was that transition from playing Bill Hartnell, playing the Doctor, into being the Doctor?
Well, if I hadn't done Adventure in Space and Time, and I'd just been offered the Twice Upon a Time, I would have had to do a lot of very, very quick homework and a lot of studying his mannerisms, not only vocal and physical. But having done Adventure, I felt I knew him, or was familiar enough with him as a character, and of course the little excerpt we did from the An Earthly Child, the very first one. So I knew the territory a bit better, and so it helped enormously to, because I've watched all these DVDs and read the book, of course, that Jessica wrote, and so I felt I was already still, I found that world of William Hartnell and Doctor Who more accessible when it came to doing the Christmas special. But I didn't, in the first one, it was that duality of playing the character of Doctor Who, although there wasn't a lot of him, but mostly him as a man and his home life and everything that shaped him. So that was the difference, I think.
I can imagine on Adventures in Space and Time, especially towards the end of the story, did it get more emotionally draining as an actor? Because obviously we see the William Hartnell starting to deteriorate in his health.
Yeah.
And you're having to portray that. Did you find that difficult to?
Well, it's something that maybe, I suppose, unless you've had a very smooth ride as an actor and you don't know what rejection's like, and I don't know any actually who found it like that, because we've all had our ups and downs. It's always been feast and famine, as we call it, and so I could identify with that sense of the rejection that he suffered, and the fact, I mean, my favourite scene from Adventure in Space and Time was the one with Brian Cox as
Sidney Newman.
Sidney Newman, sorry, where he goes into his office at the BBC, looking to make demands about having more time off and developing the character more, and what he gets is a proper slap in the face for that. Actually, we're doing Doctor Who, but without you, because he couldn't conceive of that notion at all, and now we're so used to it with Doctor Who, and we accept the fact that this transition takes place and he regenerates, but at that time he wouldn't have been able to even think of that. He would think, the fans need me, I'm the Doctor, you can't have the Doctor without Doctor Who. And so he went into Newman's office thinking he was going to be have all the best cards up his sleeve and say what he wanted, and the fact that he left knowing he was out. And so, as I said before, as an actor, you can identify with that, because we've all had rejection at some point.
And then Brian is a phenomenal actor as well. His portrayal of Sidney Newman was very, very good.
Absolutely, and it helped the fact that we worked together before, not only with the RSC in Chekhov plays, but also we did King Lear, which we toured the world with in 1991. And he was King Lear and I was his fool, and I understudied him as Lear, so we worked very closely together and we got on so well. And it helps when you come to doing something else. You've already kind of bonded and you have a shorthand. So when we did that scene, it just felt so natural, and I just loved it.
Cool. I'm going to throw the questions out to the audience now. So if you've got a question, you put your hand up. I saw the first one go over here on the left. That gentleman just there. Yeah. Yes, you. Yeah.
Was your favourite Who's your favourite doctor?
Who was my first doctor?
Yeah,
Favourite doctor. Who's your favourite?
Well, my favourite? Well, I liked them all for different reasons, but when it came back, I was so busy working in the theatre, and if you're doing that, your Saturdays, forget any kind of TV or social life of any kind. And so when it returned, I didn't see any of Chris Eccleston's or Dave Tennant's, but I loved Hartnell, I loved Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee and Tom Baker. But then I didn't get back into it when it came back. But when I did Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, I liked Matt. I loved his eccentricity and his energy and slightly crazy. And he was, I just loved what he was doing with it. But then, and then working with Peter, of course, you know, he's a wonderful actor, a lovely fella, and he was so generous to me. As I was joining something, this well-oiled machine that had been going for a long time, and everybody who works on it, the first read-through I was quite nervous because I felt like the new boy in class, you know, and but he was so welcoming and encouraging, and I think it shows on screen when people get on, when they're working, and I like to think that came through in the film. It didn't answer your question, did it? Because I actually don't have I don't have a favourite. I've appreciated them all because they've all been the same. They've all been Doctor Who, but they've all brought their own qualities to it. So I'd be hard pushed to make a choice about who the best one was. But it's usually the last one, maybe. So I suppose it's Peter. Yeah.
I saw a little lad with a hand up over here.
Did you like standing on both TARDIS sets?
How was it being on both TARDIS sets?
Oh, both TARDISes. Oh, it was, yes, it was amazing. We had such fun with all that because the Hartnell Doctor Who was obviously much more modest in size and everything, and the fun we had with him stepping onto the big TARDIS and thinking it needed a good spring clean, so where's Polly, you know? And here's a guy who was rooted in the 60s, bringing all that casual sexism or whatever, you know, and talking about the place needing a good spring clean and saying things that you can't nowadays, and he was saying them about the large TARDIS, which I don't think he think it wasn't as good as his own, you know. But it was, it's quite an experience stepping onto even the first TARDIS in Adventure, because I'd only seen it on the TV, you know. And for me, the idea of like I've been watching Coronation Street for 30 or 40 years, however it's been going on, and I did an episode in the early 80s, and I thought, oh, great, I'm getting the Rover's Return, you know, and see what it's really like in real life, you know. You know, we're all fans of something, aren't we, you know. And so when I got this episode I was so disappointed that I never got onto the set of the Rover's Return, and maybe I will one day. I might have to do the tour and join the... So it was like, doing Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, I went onto the set with my big spaceship and I saw this TARDIS in the corner. I thought, that's a real thing, you know. I was really a little bit overawed, you know. And but then I got my chance to go through the doors and use it in Adventure in Space and Time. And it's very exciting, you know. Yeah.
Were the sets much different between Adventures in Space and Time and Twice Upon a Time, the two first Doctor's TARDISes? Were they very different?
No, the Hartnell TARDIS was the same. Yeah.
Okay. You start.
Which role did you enjoy playing the most out of August Phillips and the Doctor?
Yeah.
Which character did you enjoy playing the most? Filch from Harry Potter or the Doctor?
Well, I enjoyed them both, but in the Potter, I had much more time in between the films, and there were some of the Potter films I only had a couple of scenes, and I could in the whole 6 months of filming, I never filmed in the studio. I spent maybe 2 weeks, and some I had more involvement, but it wasn't like a major character like Dumbledore or McGonagall or like Snape or one of those characters that appear much more. So my involvement wasn't as much. So, but because I was from day one on both the Doctor Who films, I was there all day, every day. So I had much more of what I might call an emotional investment in it, because I was involved all the time, and that's what I like about it. Because if I'm working, sounds an obvious thing to say, if I'm working, I like to be working, and if you get too much time off, you're not in there all the time and involved with the process, and it's much more fun when you are. It's more tiring, but it's much more thrilling. So I have to say, what I do like is about the contrast between the characters of Filch, Walder Frey, and Doctor Who. And for an actor, that's the best thing, because that means you're not like always playing the same character for years on end, and I would find that difficult. I love the variety, and I love the contrast between, say, Filch and the Doctor more than anything. But as a character, I suppose the Doctor for me was more fun to play.
Yes, ma'am.
Sort of following on from that, you were saying about the contrast between those characters, but obviously they've all kind of got that grumpy, old man.
Careful.
Okay, moving on.
They're not the nicest.
No.
And I wondered if you mind sort of almost being typecast into those characters, or whether you enjoy them.
Yes. Well, I can see where you're coming from, but I think for me, there's, I mean, like Walder Frey was really, yeah, and very mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Whereas like Filch was a bit of a buffoon, and it was a relief when I first read it, and I first read the books and the script. I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to be a hate figure for kids everywhere, and I wasn't looking forward to that so much, because I just thought, oh, kids are going to be just too frightened to engage with him. So when I was in the cinema, when I first heard laughter at what he was doing, I thought, oh, they know he's a fool, he's a job's worth, and people kind of recognise that. And so what they hear the kids, particularly the kids, finding him funny. That was very gratifying, which made him a very different creature to what I was expecting. So, and I suppose the Doctor is, he's got a bit of grumpiness about him, but he's not dangerous, I don't think. So, but yes, it is interesting that the fact that they see you as this slightly grumpy geezer,
Who think you are? I think you're lovely.
Thank you.
Somebody get her a shovel.
That's what I was edging towards.
Down the back there, there's a hand up down the back.
First of all, thank you for coming here today. I realise that was a bit of a last minute thing for you, so thank you for that.
Oh.
A lot of us really, really appreciate that you've come today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well. I think
Even if you do play the parts of the grumpy old men, for many of us here, William Hartnell is a massive, favourite as a Doctor.
yeah.
And so I just wondered, and congratulations on your performance as well.
Thank you.
What is it for you that makes William Hartnell just one of the great Doctors, and what were some of the things that you tried to pick up, from that character?
Oh, that's a good question.
And that was my mate Peter answering.
I suppose because he was...
Used to be in our local
he
Doctor
was
Who group, but he's moved
the
on
first.
to this
He
part of the country
created
now.
that
He'll be
template
at Hooverville.
for all the others to follow. And although they've all been different and individual in their own way, they all owe something to him, I think. And it was his eccentricity and the fact that he was an actor who was given a lot of rather, he was kind of stereotyped or typecast as military or authority figures, and even in a comedy series like The Army Game, which he hated, he was the only one not getting laughs because he was the grumpy sergeant major, and I think when he got the Doctor Who, at first he was reluctant when his wife said, "Oh, by the way, it's for kids," you know. I think he wanted to expand his range and be seen as something other than what he was being given to play on TV. And he became almost childlike, and I think not childish, childlike in his in the way he embraced the role, and at last he could have fun and be quirky and eccentric and adventurous what drew me to him was his endless curiosity about the universe and everything in it, and he was always in the childlike, in that sense, childlike. And it was a bit of a release for him to be able to do that. And then later on, when the fun stopped and he started to, with the illness that was to affect his memory and his energy, I think his story became his personal story became much darker, because he demanded discipline and hard work from everyone around him. Apparently he wasn't into idle chat and practical jokes on the set. He wanted to do the work and expected everyone around him to be just as hard working and taking it as seriously as he did. So when his body started to let him down a bit, and his memory, I think it must have hurt him even more, because he'd been a man of such discipline, and he demanded that discipline from himself, not only in others. And I think that's what caused him most pain, and but adversely made him more interesting as a person and as the character.
Yes, sir.
Of course, you worked with like Jodie Whittaker on Broadchurch. I wanted to ask you, what is she like as a person, and also what do you think of her as the new Doctor?
Well, I'm very excited, and when I was told it was Jodie, I was really pleased, because although the character she played in Broadchurch was very dark, and I was so impressed with her emotional range, and it was her story and things, of course, heartbreaking, but offset, she was really naughty and fun. A great wicked sense of humour, and great, you know, if you hung around with Jodie for any amount of time, you'd know that, and so I think that's what the part of Doctor Who requires. It requires that emotional depth as well as a great sense of fun, and I think that sums her up really. So I'm very excited to see what she'll do with the part, and I know some people have said, you know, a female Doctor Who will never work, but personally I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier, but now that it has happened, I'm so glad it's Jodie, because I love her.
What was your favourite line in
I've got a favourite, and it's when you come to the TARDIS door with Pearl Mackie to your side, and you basically say to her, "You carry on like that, and I'll give you a jolly good smack bottom."
Yeah. Well, the first time we did that scene, I thought I knew the line, but what came out was, any more language like that from you, young lady, I'll give you a jolly good spanking. Cut, go. So there's an outtake there somewhere, and I hope it never sees the light of day. But yes, I think that's thanks for that. That reminded me. That is the best line. Yes.
As a noted fan of a football club, which I won't mention, do you think the nature of being a fan helps you in your portrayal of your characters and your interaction with us?
I think it does, because you appreciate people who follow what you do, because I know what it's like, and if I'm in the proximity of a footballer I admire, I get all gooey-eyed and a bit nervous about meeting them. Whereas I'm used to meeting actors, because I've been working with them. This September I'll have been doing this job 20 years, so that's worth the pint, isn't it? So, thank you. But, I hadn't really thought about it, but I think you're right, because you realise that we're all fans of something, and that's my particular bag. And it's I know you don't want to mention it, but it's Aston Villa. Thank you very much. And I'm not a Glory supporter, because obviously we've waited since '96 for any silverware, so we just keep turning up and hoping for the best.
A true fan.
Right down at the door there.
So my friend Elliot here is getting married next week, and he was wondering if you could attend.
Are you looking for a wedding planner?
Yeah.
I'm your man.
See you there.
Next one across. Yes, sir. Hello.
Forgive me if you've already covered this, David, but one of the great things recently we've had is your first Doctor on audio with Big Finish. I just wanted to say a bit about working with them and what the plans are for the future.
What, for the Big Finish?
Yeah.
Well, we had such a good time recording them, and we did it in very, very little time, but it was just great seeing Claudia and Jamie again, and working with the original cast of the Adventure in Space and Time. And I gather they're, I hope I'm not spoiler alerting here, but I just don't know if we're going to do any more, but I think I'd like to, so that, you never know.
You're absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Brilliant on there. Yes, sir.
Hi, Dave. Lovely to see you today. Probably with a two-part question. If Stephen Moffat had come and said to you, David, we're doing something a little different, the Doctor's actually going to be generated to you, and you're going to be the Doctor for the whole year, would you like to put that on? And also, if you'd been born 50 years earlier, and you'd been in William Hartnell's place, and they said, look, you want to be the Doctor, would you have done it, and how would you have found working so long? Because obviously in the early days, it's every single week for the whole year. There was no stops. You got a couple of weeks off, and for considering Hill as well, he had a lot of work compared to the younger doctors now who probably work 6 months, something like that. Well, the old William actually worked the whole year, basically.
Yes.
But 3 years running, and then he was ill as well. So it was quite great getting all the way through it, and you've got to carry on as well.
Yes. Well, of course, what I realised when we were making Adventure in Space and Time was not only how little time they had, and how limited they were with the cameras and the technology of that time in the early 60s. The fact that you couldn't just stop and say, sorry, I've forgotten the lines, cut the cameras, because you were only allowed, I think, 2 camera breaks during an episode, but that was to move from one set to another. So if you blew your lines or forgot, you just had to make it up. And at that time, they had these huge, unwieldy, the cameras were like fridge freezers, they're massive. And all these massive cables across the floor that were out of shot, that the actors had to avoid tripping over. They had to make sure they stepped over these giant cables. And you've had very little rehearsal time, and if you had a lot of lines, it would have made demands on anyone. But of course, if Stephen Moffat had said, would you want to do it? Of course, yes I would, yeah. But I can appreciate how hard it must have been at that time. Well, we talk about hard work, it's not coal mining or, you know, it's not, so, but one has to be careful about talking about working hard in the theatre, because it's fun as well, but now we can just say, sorry, if you forget a line, or if you say the wrong thing, the director will say cut, or they can do anything now, and it doesn't matter how often you blow the scene. You've got that comfort blanket or that safety net, whatever you want to call it, of being able to go over bits again, and even dub lines in post-production in the studio. Weeks later, you can re-say something that was said wrongly in the first place, and you can cover up an awful lot of mistakes now. But then you just have to live with them. And there are several episodes out there of Hartnell fluffing. There's a whole stuff on YouTube called Billy. Billy is his nickname. Billy Fluffs. And you can see he's just making it up, and he's just fighting to get something out, and the others like William Russell around him and Carol Ann, who were like trying to help him out by coming in, and I should imagine it must have been quite nerve-wracking, because it was virtually like live TV at the time. And I don't know if I would have flourished under those circumstances, but as I said, if I'd been offered it in the first place 50 years ago, of course, thank you.
Any more? Over the coin.
Yeah, having been old enough to see William Hartnell originally on the black and white television, the statement you made on the 50th anniversary when Peter Capaldi came out with the TARDIS film, you said to him, you may be a doctor, I am the doctor.
Yeah.
Did he give you a kick?
No, because when we were the first read-through, we had to go around, you know, we had a table full of like 30 or 40 people, all execs from the BBC, different departments, costume, makeup, wardrobe, and whatever, continuity, and we all had to go around the table and introduce ourselves, and Vic was saying, I'm Pearl Mackie, I'm playing, what's the character called? Bill. And you just said your name and what you were playing. And I was sat next to Peter, and he came to me and I said, David Bradley playing the Doctor. Peter burst out laughing next to me and gave me a shove. And that was the start of our working relationship on that, and we'd hardly had any conversation. But it broke the ice, you know. And at the time I was thinking, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I was pushing my luck, you know, because he was the Doctor and he sat next to me. So it was making a joke of it, so broke the ice. So no, he didn't kick me.
I'm not wondering whether he kicked you, but once you get you got a kick out of saying that.
Oh yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes, yeah. Because that's what.
The transition was excellent.
Thank you. Yes. Well, it was a tricky shot because I had to keep my head absolutely still to match his head and the angle and everything. And if I moved just half an inch, you know, I would say no, back, no. So it took a long time to keep still. Thank you. But I thought the way they shot it was very clever. Very clever.
But that was the same for the regeneration scene as well, when you fall on the floor, isn't it?
Yes, that's right, isn't it? Yes, yeah. So,
yes, sir.
David, out of all the Harry Potter movies, which one's your favourite?
Oh, Chamber of Secrets.
Goblet of Fire.
No, because what on Chamber of Secrets, I had that. I loved doing that scene, bursting through all the kids.
Yeah.
And you accused
Say,
Harry of
you
murdering
better
cat.
mark out. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Oh dear, we are in trouble. But my daughter, who was then about 13, she came with me to the studio, and Chris Columbus said, does she want to be in the movie? I said, yeah. So I asked her, and she said, yeah. So they gave her a uniform, and she was one of the 300 or 400 kids in the hall. And,
That's fantastic.
so when I did that scene, coming through the crowd and shouting and screaming at Harry and seeing the cat hung up, they were all there. I mean, it was Richard Harris, Alan Rickman, Miriam Margolyes, Ken Branagh, and it was just Maggie Smith, of course, and my daughter, Chris Columbus, placed her right next to where I come bursting through, so she'd get in the shot. He was very good at him, you know. And he's a lovely, lovely guy, Chris. And so my daughter, as I was coming through with my lantern, and I could, as I was, make way, get out of the way, and I was pushing my way through the crowd, through the kids. And this other boy, there was a boy who was taller than my daughter, who decided, that's a good spot. So he stood in front of her. And I could see he'd edged his way in front of my daughter. And I thought, as I was coming through, I thought, she's not going to be seen, she's not going to be seen. And I was trying to think of my lines at the same time. So I suddenly became one of those horrible, pushy, ambitious dads. I came through, I grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and went... It's shameful, really. But then, you know, we went to the cinema and we saw the preview and the premiere, and in the shot as I came through, her little head popped up, and she was sat in the Odeon Leicester Square, and it was all quite quiet, and you just heard this little girl's voice, which was my daughter next to me, going, "Yay!" So she made it into the movie, but if I hadn't done that, yeah, she would have had this kid's face instead. So I tell you, it feels slightly ashamed, but at the same time.
Any more questions at all? Yes, sir. I'll come over there in a second. Over here.
Following on from that, I suppose, which house was your daughter sorted into?
Which house was your daughter in?
What's your shoe, Gryffindor? Yeah. Or as Filch would say, the enemy.
We have a couple of hands up over this side as well. Yes.
What was the highlight of your career so far? Because obviously you mentioned you've been doing this for a long time. So what was your personal favourite thing? You know, not just what you've done, but you know, something as a result of what you've done.
Well, it's not exactly as a result of the work I've done, but it's related to performing. And when my youngest son got married about 3 years ago, he said, "I'm going to have a wedding band for the wedding, this barn that we hired." And he says, he plays bass guitar, so he was on bass. His elder brother, my eldest son, was on drums, and we had a couple of mates on guitars. And I said, "Oh, that sounds pretty good." I said, "Who's your front man?" And he went, "Are you sure?" He said, yeah, go on, have a go. So I had to learn 14 songs from Bowie, Chuck Berry, T-Rex, Beatles, Who, and Led Zeppelin even. I learnt these 14 songs, and we had the wedding, and we did the gig, and my son said afterwards, he said, "Dad, you were living the dream, weren't you?" And I honestly, if I'm honest, that's the best time I've ever had on the stage. So after that I thought, I'm not sure about being an actor. I want to be a wedding singer. And I've done with one or two other bands. We've been just either jamming or playing in public for people occasionally. And I just absolutely love it, you know. So that's the best time I've ever had on the stage, I think. There you are.
Yes, sir, down the back.
Is there anybody left that hasn't been? There's me and Jodie and David, and yeah. Of course, there's Olivia Colman was mentioned at one point.
She's never been.
Yeah. But I'm going to be working with Olivia later in the year in the dramatisation of Les Miserables, which we're doing in Belgium and France in May. So, and she's in that, so that'll be fun. So, it's nice working with her. She's great. So. But I don't know. Who do you think should be it? It is. It is a hard one.
Got time for one more question. One more question. Make it good.
Do you think the Doctor is a fan of The Who, considering that they sing about my generation?
Yes. My generation. It could be. You could rewrite it to regeneration. Yeah. I somehow don't think William Hartnell would be a fan of that.
I did see a hand up down the back there. We can do one very quick one.
Would you mind singing a bit of Bowie?
Sing a bit of Bowie.
Bit of Bowie. Fill your heart with love today. Don't play the game of time. Things that happen in your head only happen in your mind, only in your mind. Forget your mind and you'll be free, yeah. The writing's on the wall. Free, yeah. And you can have it all if you choose. Forget yourself and you'll be free, yeah. Yeah.